So we've blocked in our walk cycle's contact poses, the most important poses in the walk. So now let's do the passing position, and the passing position will flesh out the walk and start to tighten it up a lot. So in your exercise files folder, version 9 should be the last version we're working from. Let's double click on the walk cycle and let's have a look at it, see where we are again. Okay, as you can see, not perfect by any means, but the contact positions have been tied down pretty well. So the next step is the passing pose. Now let's look at the passing pose again. So the passing pose is the midway point between the contacts. And you could do the recoil first. The only problem moving from contact to recoil is that it doesn't give you such fine control over oscillations or changes in the spine or the attitude of the walk. So the best way I think of doing it is by doing the passing position next, and that would be the way it was done in the Disney studios in the good old days. Let's do that. So the automatic tweening that we've established is very crude. It hasn't given us too much to work with, but what it has given us is the horizontal travel of the character. And so we're going to use that information and set a keyframe. And then we'll, of course, fine-tune all these positions and do the rest. Let's just extend our timeline a little bit. I'm going to then start playing with this. One thing I find that is very useful is to make sure when you're in your preferences to absolutely make sure that you have contact sensitive selection and lasso tools deselected. This is going to make your selection of objects much easier. So do not have a tick mark on there. And be sure you're set to object level undo. That means that your undos will happen contained inside the comp or the symbol that you're working inside. You don't need to be taken out of your comp into an external one or an internal one. That's what will happen by default. So those two things are critical before we go any further. So let's select the upper body on the passing position. Just draw a big bounding box around it. You can even go a little bit over the legs. And I like to do this too to make sure that everything was properly selected. It doesn't always happen. And I'm just going to put a little tilt, just a slight tilt on the passing pose. Nothing too crazy, but just a little bit more than the normal position. And you'll see it doesn't happen from here to here. It's like he's completely vertical behind the first part of the walk. I think we can push it a little bit more. Let's go in, select everything again, free transform. Let's bring them down a little further. And there you can see there's a slight little dip on the walk. That'll give them a lot more of a natural feel and a little less flashy. So that's that. Now let's look at the feet. What should be happening here is this forward foot hits the upper blue line. That heel should snap and plant down. So I'm going to hide this foot because they're all getting quite obscured. So as you can see, it's not pivoting the way we would like it to do. The horizontal position, that's great, but the vertical position is wrong. That needs to be corrected. Let's go in and do that first. Just grab that key, click it down. We can go in, actually be pretty picky about this, go in fairly close to that heel point, should align. And I'm actually going to pull the other corner down slightly so that the front and the back are both on that axis. And let's take a look at our reference image so we don't get lost inside the overall chaos of frames and tweens. So the leg we're working on is this forward-facing leg, which on the recoil position here snaps into the ground and stays there on the passing position and only begins to lift off at the back of it on the high point. So that's this pose here. And so it should actually be contacting the ground here. And let's just hold down Alt Option and copy that to the high point. And now that'll give us a much nicer feel. If you look at that foot now, bang, it's hitting the ground, it's staying there, it's not wiggling or moving or doing anything weird. And that'll give us our axis point that we can use to position the leg with. We can do something similar with the opposite foot now. Have a look at that. This is where it is on the passing position. It should be lifting well off the ground, and that's this guy here. So let's rotate him, get him into a position that's a little more natural. Let's hide that leg if it's, and this leg too, they're just getting in our way right now. Much better. So we're going from, follow this foot, it's going from here to here to here. Maybe even higher on the high point, we won't worry about that now. And the other thing to worry about would be the position of the hands. The right hand, for example, always watch where it's going and where it's coming from, where it's going to. It's here. And then on the passing position, it'll be swinging down somewhere around this direction. So let's see where it's been put. I think we can bring it a bit lower. We drag it back a little bit. Let's hide that upper arm for a second. And we can't see through the body, so let's put the body into outline. I'm going to hide that arm as well. We have a bit of surgery yet to do there. I'm going to pull the left arm down too. If that passing position, the left arm is also swinging on a big axis, like think of a pendulum, back and forth. So there we go. So what I'm going to do now, I'm actually going to ignore the arms and the legs for now. I really want to help you focus on looking at just the feet and the hands, because that'll help. Your big challenge here, if you haven't done a walk before or haven't done it in Flash, is just getting over the visualization of where all the bits are and where they're going. So let's make the second passing position here. And what I want to do is make a reference image that we can use as well. Because don't forget, the second passing position should be much like the first one, but just over here. We tilted the body and did another bunch of stuff. So let's make a reference image. Copy all those. Control Shift and V, so we snap them into place. And then take this reference image. Let's put it in outline mode and just drag it over until it's in the same horizontal position as our new key is going to be here. Then padlock it. And then make a stack of keyframes. Hit F6. I'm going to hide that reference image again. A big bounding box once more over the upper body. And then just tilt it until it lines up with the earlier version. It doesn't have to be 100% exact, but near enough. And now I think we can actually get rid of that temporary guide layer. And once again, I'm going to hide the layers that need a further attention. That's the legs and the arms. And I need to repeat our actions on the feet. Let's just follow like one foot. So the problem foot this time is the right foot. And actually on that contact position, I think it should be a bit lower. It should be on that lower line. Let's look at that whole thing again. Yes, indeed. It's actually a little too low on the alternate position. So let's pull that down. Pull that one up. Glad we caught that now. Let's hide the other foot. It's kind of distracting. It's good if we do one thing at a time. So here's our right foot, smacks into the ground. And now it should do the same thing. It should plant itself down on that lower line and stay there. So I'm going to drag this back to the recoil position and forward to the high point, which we did, remember, on the opposite foot at the same point. F6 for a new keyframe here. Zoom out, see how that feels. Great, much better. So you see the advantage of working in the passing position. We're already getting the feel of our actual walk cycle, even with just one key. We're actually missing the recoil on the high point, and we're already getting a nice walky feel to things. So I'm going to hide the arms and the legs again. And I want to unhide the other foot level. Because remember, on the opposite passing position, it looked like this. Dragging forward. Let me show you again on the reference image. So the foot that we're going to be working on now is this guy here. So let's move him up, free transform and drag him. And we have a lot of freedom with the foot once it's off the ground. You can really go crazy with your position of it, but this is going to be a little more conservative. The further you push it, the harder it is to pose, but it is possible to do crazy things with walks. So here we go. It's pretty standard, stable passing of feet and hands. So that's just one last double check. We'll check the contact. Contact, contact. Looks good. Passing position, passing position. The hands look pretty consistent. The position of the feet look consistent. Other than that, they're reversed. And if we reactivate the limbs, we can see they're perfect on the contact, of course. On the passing position, they need to be polished and tweaked. So I'll do that in the subsequent section, and we will correct all these little errors on the limbs. And then at that point, the walk will then have a few little gaps still to be fixed on the recoil and high point. But it'll start to feel a lot less disjointed and a lot more solid at that point. So let's move on and correct the arms and legs.